Ericka.
Hel-
I'm a little pissed off because
Yeah.
when our servicemen get put in harm's way, it's hard enough to send them out there. But when we have an administration that clearly does not have the resolve to protect them. I mean, Benghazi, anybody?
Yeah.
Remember Benghazi?
So, yeah. Well, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, their posture with Taiwan. Name the foreign policy that looks like garbage with the Biden administration.
Well, I got a better one for you. Name a single foreign policy success after almost 3 years of the Biden administration. Name one.
I can't. I mean, nothing that I would call a success, right? Our people that we disagree with might think it's a success that we, sent billions of dollars to Iran and let's see that, Russia invaded Ukraine. Other people may think that that's great. However, I think we would agree that those were failures as well.
So I want to go back to Trump's statement. Now, look, he's not the most articulate guy, but he was very clear. But wait. So what he went on to say after they took out Soleimani, right, is the following. We took action last night to stop war. We did not take an action to start a war. And what people don't understand is that sometimes you have to meet aggression with aggression. And he goes on to say the following. Under my leadership, we have destroyed the ISIS territorial caliphate, and recently American Special Operation Forces killed the terrorist leader known as al-Baghdadi. The world is a safer place without those monsters.
Yeah.
So he goes on and says, I have a deep respect for the Iranian people. They are a remarkable people with an incredible heritage and unlimited potential. We do not seek regime change. However, the Iranian regime's aggression in the region, including the use of proxy fighters, Houthi rebels, Hezbollah, right, destabilize its neighbors, must end, and it must end now. Is that not, what am I missing other than the fact that, we have no mean tweets now. I feel so much better. Do you feel safer, ladies and gentlemen?
That's what my question was always.
Me crazy. Makes me crazy.
My question to people was always, like, you may not like the way that he talks. A lot of the educated, the laptop class didn't like him because he spoke more like a regular person.
The laptop class. I love that.
Yeah. If he's not using enough 3-syllable words, he must be dumb, And it's like, no, maybe he just doesn't have to be as pompous and arrogant as you are in order to get the point across and to get the job done. And, I always said, I stole this from somebody. I can't give credit. He's Donnie from Queens. And if anyone expected someone other than Donnie from Queens to show up, they were going to be sorely disappointed.
Right.
But that's what you want. You want that kind of arrogance and brashness when you're talking about foreign policy with vicious dictators who don't care about human life. Right. Do you want a mamby-pamby person, or do you want somebody who's going to punch him in the face?
No, I want the meanest SOB that's out there, right? Because his job is, you go back to the movie like A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise, which was a great movie, and Jack Nicholson's the bad guy. But at the end of the day, my sympathies are more with Jack Nicholson given these times, because their job is to keep us safe. And all we have done is hamper them. And let's not forget, this is the administration and the Democratic Congress that put forward the ideas, let's have illegal immigrants because we're so far under quota, because we've screwed up the military, I would argue intentionally, right? Because the military is the only thing that could turn on the federal government. So they want to gut the military. But, that's the whole, just because I wear a tinfoil hat doesn't make me a conspiracy theorist. Let's set that aside, right? But so the military has been, and I have friends who just retired, and they said, look, the rank and file are still strong, but they're so far under quota, their ideas, I have a good idea. Let's get people who came to this country illegally, who we don't even know who they are. Let's train them and give them weapons and have them swear allegiance to a document they've probably never read called the U.S. Constitution. And let's go put them in harm's way to fight to protect America and democracy. Am I missing something?
Yeah, no,
Help me here.
It is crazy. It is, how about you guys just stop doing vaccine mandates and hunting down people with conservative values so that we can have a military that actually functions.
White Christian nationalists are terrorists. Come on.
I mean,
white Christian nationalists, y'all are terrorists.
But
right now they haven't said the Jews are terrorists yet. We're getting there.
Oh no, you guys are definitely terrorists too. That's
in this country or in Israel?
You're white.
Oh,
Jewish people are white now.
Well, not all.
Asian people are white. Jewish people are white.
So I want to call up
Hispanic people are white.
Well, and some black people who
Africans.
No. Black people who vote Republican are either white or Uncle Tom or they're what was the word that Joy Reid used? I mean, whatever. But in any event, they're I don't know. They're
Nigerians are too successful. That's the one thing. Nigerians are incredibly successful in America, so they're now white adjacent.
Yeah. So
that's what it is.
Here's the other guy that we need to talk about because the Middle East at large is on fire. And by the way, folks, since October 7th, right? We have 9/11 and now we have 10/7. Since 10/7, there have been 160, count them, 160 attacks on U.S. servicemen and women or U.S. bases just in the Middle East since 9/11. Now, that number might have been underreported or not reported by the press, but folks, they're coming after us. And you know what we do? Oh, well, we bring, an armada of ships in, and then when the Iranians bring in one destroyer, we back out. We do these tactical surgical strikes. How's that working for you? Right? And then bring up this picture. Here's my other buddy, right? Can we bring up Secretary of State Tony Blinken? If we have him? Because that guy, I referred to him as Winkin, Blinken, and Nod, right? Because, or Winkin, Blinken, and Stu Nods, right? Because the other thing that people don't know is, so he goes to Prime Minister Netanyahu and says two things. It was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Again, press didn't report it. They basically said to the Netanyahu government, to Bibi himself, you can't beat Hamas. You have to have a ceasefire and make peace with them. You can't win, and you have to accept a two-state solution. Right? This is the administration that is, through the UN, through direct bilateral discussions, is trying to undercut Israel's resolve and ability to root out terrorists that and pillaged. And now we know that the UN workers were there, right? UN relief workers were there participating in the brutal slaying and massacre. And, Israel, you can't defend yourself. So Winkin, Blinken, and Nod. I still like Winkin, Blinken, and Stu Nod. But
well, I just, whenever I hear anyone say the two-state solution, I think to myself, were you literally born yesterday? Because I'm old enough to remember how many times the two-state solution has been suggested and rejected by the Palestinians or by Hamas. Since what, like the 80s? 70s that's been discussed. I remember under Clinton. There's every time there's another
Carter,
war.
It started under Carter,
okay.
but it is diametrically opposed to from the river to the sea, right?
Right.
From the Jordan River to the Red Sea doesn't mean a two-state solution. And by the way, Yasser Arafat in the Oslo Accords was offered a two-state solution. He turned it down,
like 15 times.
And this attack shows that all they have been doing, they being the PLO, or in this case Hamas, have been taking U.S. and foreign aid, building tunnels, living this extravagant lifestyle, and planning attacks to drive Israel into the sea. And folks, we're going to say this till we're blue in the face. After they get the Jews, if you're Christian, you're next, because they're not just coming after the Jews, folks. They're coming after Judeo-Christian values. Yep. And you guys out there, Queers for Palestine, good luck. Hope that's working for you. Right.
Oh, yeah. They hate the West. Anything that represents the West. Anyone that's not and not all Muslims, right? We have to say this, unfortunately, because people can't think for themselves and make rational thought. Not all Muslims, obviously, are on a jihad, but those who are think anyone who is not also Muslim, and not just Muslim, but the sect of Islam that they are, everyone else deserves to be murdered, according to them. You can't
wait a minute. There are two sects, right? Sunni or Shiite.
Right.
Shia, right? There's only two,
and they war
and there
against
are
each
radicals
other.
in both. There are radicals in both. Not everyone who's a Sunni or a Shiite subscribes to that, and we keep making
But-
excuses for it. Which, by the way, go back since the bombing of the U.S. barracks in Lebanon under Reagan, and find me one international act of terrorism that was not as a result of Islamic extremists. Find me one. Guess what?
Yep.
You can't. So you got to understand what this is. And by the way, the leader of Hamas came out and defies critics, says its terrorists upheld Islamic values during murderous attack on Israel. So raping women. Yeah, hang on. I don't make this stuff up. Wait.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. Wait. You're going to have to read that again.
So it was called the Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, was a necessary step against Israel's alleged occupation of Palestinian territories. Now, Israel has not occupied, so to speak, the West Bank or Gaza since like 2004, 2006. So if Israel is still occupying Palestinian territories, then it's the rest of the state of Israel that they're talking about. But you want to talk about blaming the victims, right? So on a couple Sundays ago, the organization itself, Hamas organization, released a following statement claiming that, one, its fighters were committed to Islamic values, and if civilians were targeted, it happened accidentally in the course of the murderous rampage. And he goes on to say that it's Israel's fault. The rapid collapse of Israel's security and military system and the chaos caused along the border was to blame for the high civilian casualty. We have these sons of bitches on tape. They're burning babies alive. They're raping women. They're cutting off women's genitalia while they're raping them and then killing them. Folks, I don't know the definition of evil, but I know it when I see it, right?
Didn't they post the videos themselves? This isn't like propaganda being put out by somebody. This is their videos, their own stuff that they were showing to the world.
So they're upholding Islamic values, just so you know. If if that's Islamic values, the world doesn't want any part of that.
No.
Right? And at the end of the day, you have a God-given right to self-defense. And if you're coming after me or my family, morte. And it's no different than the invasion of our southern border, which we're going to get to today. It's no different than if you're invading my home. What's the difference, folks? Then you have Qatar. Qatar hires an ex-CIA agent to discredit Senator Ted Cruz because he put a bill to designate Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood as terrorist organizations. So now you have Qatar, who's clearly playing both sides. Don't you love how we have all this? Yep, that's Qatar.
That is a crazy flag.
Right? So you have Qatar, who rich, right, Middle East country, playing both sides. They hire an ex-CIA agent to take down Ted Cruz's. They're not going after him physically, right? Let's be clear here. It's not what I'm saying. But because Ted Cruz and several others, Senator Cruz, puts forward a bill to designate the Muslim Brotherhood, because all of this nexus is the Muslim Brotherhood and all of that nexus is Iran, right? I mean, you got to understand all these sort of satellite operations, whether you're the Houthi rebels, whether you're Hezbollah, whether you're in Boko Haram, right? I mean, these are all satellite organizations to the mothership. You remember the movie Independence Day? Independence Day, where everything tied to the mothership. The mothership, ladies and gentlemen, is Iran, right? Funded through Qatar, who's playing both ends of this. And then the other thing I find, Ericka, interesting in all of this, there have been missiles going back and forth between Pakistan and Iran. They're bombing each other.
Yeah.
And guess who's trying to play peace broker between Iran and Pakistan?
I can't imagine.
The Taliban. So, right? And now, I know I'm cynical. I get that, right? I get that I am from New Jersey and I'm really cynical. But why would the Taliban broker the peace? It's simple, because they're in between the two, and they don't want the nuclear fallout if Iran. I mean, think about it. They're going to be bombing each other. Who's in the middle?
Yeah, them. Oh my gosh.
So when it behooves them to talk peace, they'll talk peace. And the only way you are going to bring anyone to the table in the Middle East, you listening, Biden administration, winking Tony Blinken and Stunad, right, is through a show of strength and you've got to teach Iran a lesson. I don't know if you want to take out the refineries. You have to bomb Iran. And I realize that that's a bold and statement, right? But if you do not inflict pain on Iran in some capacity and just can't cut their funds off anymore, you too late for that. What are you going to do? Mm-hmm. So, Ericka, I mean, I'm a little verklempt, but it just makes me crazy.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, so this might be a good time for us to remind everybody watching, listening. If you're listening to us on podcast, if you are on social media, we ask that you like, share, and subscribe because we are seeing it, you guys. Some of our videos we can actively see being suppressed because the tech overlords don't like some of our guests. They don't like us talking about things like election integrity. So if you let the algorithm know that you like this content, it really helps you guys. So wherever you're watching or listening, make sure to leave a review and let us know. Robert.
And I have a surprise for you. I have a surprise for you.
You do?
We are also now up on Apple Podcast. We're live on Apple.
Finally.
We still never got anybody from Apple Podcast to pick up the phone. It's like the black hole of, social media, digital media to try to get them. But folks, we're also on Apple Podcast. And I know Google shifting their platform, but you can now find us everywhere. Spotify, Google, Apple. So like us, share us, subscribe. Help us get the word out there because as you're seeing, especially now that we're live, brash, irreverent, and mostly peaceful doesn't begin to describe us, but it's as close as we're going to get. Especially, and you do realize the mostly peaceful reference is at the height of COVID and all these BLM social justice protests. The media's favorite line was, well, these protests were mostly peaceful.
Mostly peaceful.
And there's a bridge. I'm going to be mostly peaceful because there's a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you if those protests were mostly peaceful. It's old, made of wood, but in really good condition.